Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Boone of Wireless Podcast, coming to you, as always, high above the streets of northern New Jersey at ANJ Media. Yes, New Jersey, where in 1913, Jerry O'Mahony of Bayonne, New Jersey, built the first stationary lunch wagon, and the diner was born. Diners are a huge part of New Jersey culture and landscape. At its peak, the state had over 500 of them, more than any other state. Andrew, you like diners, correct?
Yes, John.
What do you normally order when you go to a diner?
Food.
Okay, that doesn't even warrant a response. So, Andrew, behind the glass, as always, thank you very much. Okay, let's get serious. My guest today is the founder of OXIO, the world's first telecom as a service platform. Nico Girard is an accomplished entrepreneur and technology visionary, renowned for his transformative contributions to the telecommunications industry. As the founder and CEO of OXIO, he has pioneered the groundbreaking concept of Telecom as a Service, TaaS, which we're going to dive into pretty deeply here, reshaping the landscape of mobile connectivity. Prior to his role at OXIO, Nico co-founded OXIO, a pioneering force in sponsored data and solutions. Serving as the company's chief technology officer, he propelled OXIO to become the leader in sponsored data, securing partnerships with 45 tier 1 mobile carriers globally. OXIO's remarkable journey culminated in its successful acquisition by Mavitar. Before his tenure at OXIO, Nico founded Attila Technologies as president, chief technology officer, and chief operating officer. He spearheaded the development and business strategy of a revolutionary wireless network aggregation technology. Attila's contributions played an instrumental role in shaping the fields of heterogeneous networks, okay, we're going to find out what that is, and seamless Wi-Fi offloading, setting the standard for a protocol used in over 1 billion mobile devices today. With a cloud-based, API-first mindset, OXIO exposes all the possibilities of telecom to give customer-obsessed companies the data and tools they need to deliver unique connectivity experiences and better business outcomes. It's a pleasure to have him on our program today, so please join me in welcoming to our broadcast, Nico Girard.
Good morning, Tom.
It's good to see you. How are you?
Doing awesome. I'm right across the river from you.
Yes, well, you're in New York. I'm in New Jersey, and I don't make fun of New York like I do New Jersey, but we have a lot to be proud of over here.
Absolutely, and we have diners too.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Let's jump right into it. What was the thing I said? Heterogeneous networks. What was that?
Yeah, it's a pretty complex words that means a lot of different things, but no, the idea at the time is, we're talking almost like 15, 20 years ago, but, the telecom networks and protocol we're back in the 2G, 3G eras, so could not do a whole bunch of those things. We're back into the CDMA versus GSMA, we're back into the WiMAX. So the whole idea behind it was a unifying protocol that lets you basically, as a wireless device, or glide between different type of radio access tech. And then be able to combine them. So we did a lot of fun stuff, all the way to powering what was at the time the White House communication agency. So being able to basically combine multiple cellular networks to carry video traffic in real time and things of that nature.
OXIO is touted itself as the first telecom as a service provider. Can you expand and explain on what TaaS is?
The idea behind the telecom as a service was really sort of democratize access to telecom. As you know, having been in the industry for quite some time, it's a lot of operators, very local. It's a lot of technology. Networks were not really built to be exposed to others. So long and short is the status quo is if you want to build anything on top of connectivity or innovate or monetize connectivity in different ways, the bar is pretty high. So the whole construct, as you look at other industries, the way, the Stripes have revolutionized fintech, Shopify, e-commerce, right? Really building sort of like soup to nut platforms that let you focus on, differentiating in the commerce space or the fintech space. The idea is like, how do we do that from a telco standpoint? So we are not only the first, but also the more comprehensive in that we control everything from the tower onwards. compared to others that tend to be building on top of other people's technology.
So you said you were first. That leads me to believe that there's other TaaS providers out there.
Yeah, I mean, like everything in telco, right? It's like, right, we just come back from Barcelona, so everyone is using the buzzword of the year. So TaaS has become one of those where a lot of different people are talking about telecom as a service. And like anything in telecom, you can use the same words to describe a lot of different things, right? So we're the first one to kind of come up with it. Sometimes it's like connectivity resale as a service. Sometimes it's plan resale as a service. Sometimes it's a new definition for the old construct of an MVNE. What we call telecom as a service is basically a full-fledged global tier one carrier running in the cloud, offered as a wholesale platform.
Well, imitation is the finest form of flattery, as you know. How is OXIO different than the other TaaS players?
Yeah, it goes back to where we cover, right? Part of it is, especially as you start a business like this as a startup, is it's a tall order to talk about like a global telecom network, to talk about I'm sure we'll talk about like AI and the role of AI in telecom and things of that nature. So it's very easy for us to explain how we differentiate, because typically others are building on top of existing telecom rails from operators, or building on top of existing OSS/BSS functions. In our case, we felt that, one, in order to solve a lot of the problem in telco, you really need to have ownership of the network. You need to also rethink about how features are delivered, and we can talk about things that we're doing that no one else in the world is really doing as a function of that. And then everything has gone over to data, right? And so, like any other industry, right, it's like, how do you access the data, transform data, expose the data? So if you don't have ownership of the network, you just don't have access to data. So it comes down to capabilities, and I'm sure we'll talk about some use cases where uniquely enabling, but it also comes down to, are you building an experience that's data-driven, or can be enhanced by the data, or where the data can enhance the business of the customer, say building an MVNO. And it's either you have the data because you control the network, or you don't have the data. So the differentiation at that point becomes very clear.
So you also claim that you eliminate roaming on your borderless multi-carrier telecom network. What's your current footprint, and if you can share plans for the future growth?
The elimination of roaming is sort of a byproduct of what we do, being a global network. So by definition, what happens is, like, our model is we are asset light by nature, so we really only focus on the software. So we rent the wireless access from others. We've publicly announced at TNT, for instance, we work with a number of others. And the idea is that we leverage their radio access network, so effectively renting their towers, backhaul, and data centers to the entry point into our network. The way the network is architected, though, is that it's a multi-carrier, multi-RAN type of technology, and it's also cross-border. So to kind of give you an idea, like, we started our commercial life in Mexico, and where we have access to all the towers in Mexico. So when you enter the network through a Mexican tower, or you enter the network through an AT&T tower, you're effectively going to the same network. And so that's why, like, roaming is eliminated at that point. The goal is to be global effectively, right? And it's not just cellular networks necessarily, or commercial cellular networks. It's also, satellite technology, it's Wi-Fi, it's CBRS, it's and basically connecting anything that can physically connect the device. So we're not there yet. Where we are today is that we have built a very replicable integration model with the operator, or like they are at this point, where it makes it very easy for us to go to a foreign operator and say, I want to use your wireless towers. So the next few years for us is basically to just blanket and cookie cut everything that we've done. Currently, to answer your question, the focus is on North America and South America. But a lot of our customers are bringing us all over the world. So that's the mission for the next 18 months.
So let me ask, who is your customer? Who are you selling to?
So ultimately, we're selling to the same sort of cohort as Verizon and AT&T. We enable MVNOs, we enable enterprise solution, we connect people and machines. We do a little bit of all the above, with our unique strengths, which is, one, to be global. Where one of my favorite lines in telco is local, the world is global, and we live in a global economy. So a lot of times, especially in the enterprise space, when you go to an operator and say, hey guys, I operate in 40 countries, I do not want to have 100 relationship with different operators and different technologies. But we also tend to focus on where we're uniquely positioned. there's a number of use cases today that we're enabling that would not exist without us, which, without bragging, is just a function of how the industry is set up. I'll give you a couple examples. But so, if someone is trying to launch a resell MVNO, I would say, we're one of many, and generally would not necessarily pay attention to that. If you're trying to launch an MVNO that's powered by AI and where the data is a core aspect of it, that's where we play. And then typically, my strong belief is that the enterprise space in general has not been addressed properly by the carriers. So this is where we're going hunting, because at that point we have we're still a startup in a world of like very large carriers with tens of billions of dollars. So at some point you don't want to compete with any of those guys. You want to do things that they're unable of doing, right?
So are you an MVNO, an OSS, BSS provider, an aggregator, an enabler, all of the above?
It's sort of all the above. I mean, the funny part is like, especially as we're building, right? Because obviously we didn't start with having full control of the network, so everyone was really trying to put us in a box. So we're an MNO without towers. We're also an enabler. We're also an aggregator. We're also, I would say, usually when I respond, I'd say we're a global MNO without towers. This is what we got our FCC license on, for instance, right? Being a multi-carrier, global cross-border operator. We're the regulated entity. We have the same level of licenses as any other tier one carriers. But then we also, because we have the full stack, we're enable and compete with MVNEs. We're enable and compete with MVNAs. I think the definition will evolve, but like anything in telco, those things are still 30 years old. Like if you look at the FCC definition, right, it's back into the facility-based kind of construct. Right?
So a couple of weeks ago in March, you were granted approval by the FCC to operate your cloud-native multi-carrier wholesale network and TaaS service solutions in the U.S., as well as the Federal Telecommunications Institute, Mexico's equivalent to the FCC. And now this additional regulatory acceptance gives the company the ability to provide local connectivity across both regions as a fully, I think what you told me was an operational cross-border wholesale network. It's a lot. How big a milestone for OXIO was this?
It's a pretty big milestone. On one end is, it's just a license to operate from the regulator, and it's a requirement, not necessarily a celebration. But in this case, it was because it's the first kind of global carrier that got approved in the US. As you know, like typically you have different tiers of licenses, right? You can resell things from others. You can mint stuff domestically. In our case, what's new here is that we don't own wireless infrastructure. We are cross-border. We're running in the cloud. So trying to get the regulators in respective countries to understand the model took a minute, especially in the US. So getting it was an achievement in of itself, and it's kind of also by definition shows transformative era of telecom that we're coming. Right, those models are coming out. They're getting regulated. We're effectively the fourth wholesale network in the country by virtue of the way we're regulated, still leveraging others towers. So big milestone for us as a company. We're still very small. It's good to get the nod from the regulators, but generally it's just a permit to operate, right? It's nothing super more exciting than that.
Well, you may be small, as you say, and a startup, but there's some big partnership news that I've been reading about with OXIO, and in the past few months, it looks like you've had some good work with AT&T, AWS, who else? Matrix and Mavenir. Is there anything you can share some light on some of these partnerships and the impact they've had on your TaaS solution?
Yeah, those partnerships are super critical, ultimately, because we would not be doing what we're doing without those guys. For us, in our CTO at Yale repeats it all the time. The network that we have is a tier one carrier grade network, right? It's the same type of technology that Verizon or AT&T would deploy. Because a lot of times, people that attempted to build networks, usually it's either kind of limited to, say, a use case M2M, and you don't have voice or SMS, or it's not global, or there's a lot of things that you need to change because fundamentally, again, like telco was always meant to be a local asset, a local network in a country, and now that you're bringing this kind of global construct to it, things need to change. So you need to work with innovators, both in terms of what does it look like when telco network runs in the cloud, to how do you extend deployment, to rethinking the rules, because if you're doing cross-border deployments, now your OSS/BSS needs to understand that you might be mixing numbers from Mexico and US as part of the same plan construct, right? So, in those, it's been really a good partnership. AWS really helping us, sort of run in the cloud, both from the telecom aspect and the AI, but also working with us towards like this elusive, like sort of one-click deployment. So, want to go to France? Can we click a button on AWS and then just be able to extend the network to that country? Matrix, this is what we leverage for our OSS/BSS, so a lot of innovation around that, right? As a function of being global. Mavenir, where, as you said in the intro, I sold my previous company. We're getting a lot of like network tech from them. So, the IMS is from Mavenir. It's the same IMS that T-Mobile has, for instance, right? And then, of course, AT&T, right? We're nothing if we don't have the infrastructure and the towers. So it's very critical to work with those guys. And generally, we intend to keeping the same set of vendors as we extend around the world, and then, replacing AT&T with some local carriers in different markets.
Are you exclusive to AT&T in the U.S.?
No, we're not exclusive to anyone. This is the part where in telco you need to be agile and flexible. I would say this, we've been very impressed with how AT&T has kind of looked at the future, and especially at wholesale areas and the differentiation that it's going to bring. A lot of times, it's easy for carriers to want to continue like the model they've had for the longest time. We control the retail experience, and now getting on wholesale. So we've been very aligned, from that standpoint. But no exclusivity with anyone. It's you just limit your option, or you put constraint on the customer, and generally everything that we're doing at OXIO, from technology to commercial model, is to simplify and let the customer be in control. So we also, if someone wants to go with red towers versus blue towers, they can go with red towers.
Well, again, as a startup, you're keeping some very good company with these partners. So congratulations. You're also named as finalists in the Network X Awards, the MVNO World Congress Awards, and Fierce Network Innovation Awards. That's a lot of accomplishments to go along with your 2 million plus lines in service that you reported. What does your growth look like in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, thank you. It's a testament to our marketing team. I would say, we're in category defining territory here, so we need to get the word out on, the TaaS, what it can do, be able to kind of meet use cases and innovators that will require this type of solution. I'll give you an example in a minute after I answer your question, but generally where we are now is we have beachfront access to the most powerful wireless market in the world, which is the United States. So we're focusing on that. A lot of really, like, if you look at the use cases, one thing I'm proud of, we do very different things on the same platform, all the way from fancy MVNOs with influencers and celebrities and kind of like hyper personalized experience, to we have a very cool one, which is a cross border with a content company targeting the Hispanics, where we'll be bringing lines from different Latin American countries and US together and establish better ramps. But also a lot of things in the enterprise space. So in particular, like something that we discussed at Mobile Congress with actually AWS. It's a customer called Symphony, and what they do is they provide communication tools to bankers, basically. And this, to me, this is a great example because it kind of put all the pieces and highlights what we're trying to solve and the status quo in the industry. So first of all, they found us through those marketing events. That's why we keep on going out there and explaining what we do, because what they really needed is a global carrier. But the situation in the industry is actually a good example of the things we solve. So today, most banks are regulated, right? You need to record voice, SMS messages, data sessions for compliance reasons, right? The financial compliance. So typically what the bank will do is go source some enterprise SIMs for their employees, say from an AT&T, right? The problem is none of that communication gets recorded, right? You don't have access to the AT&T network. So a company like Symphony, what they do is they build those kind of knock-up WhatsApp apps or iMessage apps to say, hey, if you want to communicate with your customers, with your colleagues, you need to use this because that's what's being recorded. And that's where the situation is not great, right? So you cannot use your work phone the way it's meant to be. A lot of their customers, where you're going to tell high net worths with balance in your bank that no, you cannot use WhatsApp, you can use message and things of that nature. So and so the banks are just getting fined, right? Because a bunch of people are not following the rules. And if you think about it, the situation is ridiculous, right? It's like, why can't I use my phone the way it's meant to be? And so for a company like Symphony, they look at this and say, well, I can probably provide a better solution, right? That we need to connect to SMS, voice, and data at the operator, and then I can get the information, I can run it through compliance. The issue now is you're back into what we discussed before. It's each carrier is serving one or two markets at best. Banks tend to be global. They operate in 40, 50 different countries. So all of a sudden I need to work with potentially hundreds of operators. I need to do very costly integration, even if they'll let me do it in the network, which most operators don't want to let you do. And it's going to take 10 years and hundreds of millions of dollars. Or you do the integration once with a platform like OXIO, and then you're able to now sell to the banks an enterprise SIM that has built-in compliance as part of that. And now go use your WhatsApp and your message. Everything is recorded. You don't have to go use separate apps and so on and so forth. So to me, this is where this type of use case, it's very binary. It doesn't exist unless you can have a global carrier that lets you expose the capabilities via APIs or not. That's it, right? That's the end of the solution. So those are and obviously, as you would imagine, every banker working for any bank wants that solution yesterday because their current experience is very poor.
Are you currently implementing this?
Yeah, that's what we talked about at AWS, because it was kind of all those things coming together, right? We're not doing much. We're a global operator exposing our API. It's business as usual for us. Our partner connects to our capabilities, personalize their experience, issue the eSIMs, build that into the app. But then their side is also really cool because they're able to take all voice, SMS, and data and then really kind of pipe that into an LLM that does the compliance automatically after that. So going from a world of, hey, I need to record 10% of the communication by law and analyze that by my risk compliance officer, and then I need to push all the stakeholders into a specialized experience through custom apps to, you know what, the phone and the entirety of the communication is going to get recorded, and now 100% of your communication is going to be analyzed by an LLM effectively, right? So you're really kind of going from an outdated solution to the future, right? And then the experience for the banker is you don't have to do anything, just use the phone the way it's meant to be, and you're in compliance, right?
That is really good stuff. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Well, we covered a lot, and I'm sure you're every day getting the word out there. Can your potential customers see you at any trade shows this year? I know that you were in Barcelona this year. Unfortunately, I did not get to go this time, but I heard it was as crazy as ever with 100,000 people. Where else were you going to be popping up this year?
Yeah, I mean, we'll run the circuit. Yeah, Barcelona was, as you would imagine, right? 95% of the booth had AI. No one's really doing AI, but everyone's talking about it, and we'll see the byproduct next year. Great show though, right? It's just very fun. So we'll run the circuit. Like, there's a whole bunch of really good sort of MVNO conferences out in Europe, MVNO World in particular. We're doing Network X here in the States. We'll probably do a DTW and others. Really, again, like it's trying to get the word out. We're not fully global at the moment, so it's not like launching anywhere in the world is just possible. But there's a lot of innovation and primarily like just being able to meet innovators, guys like Symphony and others. Like we see a lot of innovation also in the authentication identity space, where that might be a good one for you. I don't know if you're seeing it too, but where the whole industry is basically shifting to dedicated eSIMs that become a delegation of your identity and can be used for authentication. So now we have special purpose eSIMs, and we're uniquely positioned to power a lot of that stuff. So it's really going into those conferences where people are innovating at that level can be paired with enabling technology like OXIO.
Yeah, I think the days of the physical SIM are obviously numbered, and it's all going eSIM, which is for what I've seen and what I've used with a couple clients is just a very fast, quick way to get up and running and secure and all that other good stuff.
What's cool too is like it's not only your primary line, for instance, right? So you might be on Verizon or AT&T, but then your bank might make you download a dedicated eSIM that will be used to encrypt your communication with the bank, but also provide 100% identity delegation at this point, right? So it's almost like a mini passport that you use the eSIM for, right? And that's changing the industry because, there's like, you pretty much eliminate the fraud at this point, right? And kind of changing also like those players are using the SIM more for what it is than communication at that point, right? Meaning like you can delegate your personal identity to your telecom identity. And if you're authenticating your telecom identity, then we know it's John on the other side and we can tell the bank. Will
this for the mobile device do away with the two-factor authorization where you got to capture that code before it disappears and enter it?
That's exactly what's going on. Like we see a number of companies that are doing that, right? Replacing 2FAs and OTP, and then basically delegating it. Like if you're in the Apple ecosystem, right? Apple does it with a secure enclave and kind of works well within their ecosystem. But the idea here is to make it universal and leveraging the SIM as the main construct. But the experience after that is really, really nice. So we're seeing some customers are doing some work with like European carriers and Google and others where, you don't have to go fetch the 2FA. You don't have to open a special app, remember the code, go to the other laptop. It's just seamless. And
good. There's too much complexity in our industry, and I think a lot of people welcome that. All right. So how does one contact OXIO and learn more about telecom as a service?
Generally, the best is our website, oxio.com. We have a number of forums that will redirect to the right parties, but also at conferences where we're going there specifically to go meet potential customers and partners. So, but the website is definitely the best way.
Okay, very good. Well, Nico, it's a pleasure having you on the broadcast, as I call it today, the Boon of Wireless, and I do cross the river on occasion, and I'll make sure I stop by and we can catch up on some more stuff very soon.
We're overdue for a conversation like around coffee. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it was a pleasure having you, and I think our audience, I know I learned a lot today about OXIO and what you guys can provide, so I hope our audience enjoyed it as well and can engage with you and your team. So, Nico Girard, all the best. Continued good luck to you and the company. That is going to wrap up another episode of the Boon of Wireless, and we will see you next time. Do you want to be a guest on the Boon of Wireless podcast? Give us a call at 908-THE-BOON. Yes, 908-843-2666.